Hello everybody, welcome back to another video for the day. Now we're going right back into Tales of Neckbeard. If you have not already, be sure to like the video, comment down below during the video if you see something you'd like, and if you have not already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. Let's get right into the content. Let's go. And our first story comes to us from the same user that was that did the Neckbeard nice guy encounters in the last video. There was the follow-up, and I am actually glad that I finally got to read that. Let's go. The Neckbeard nice guy encounters 2. Okay, so I got a comment on my last one. I suppose I'll just tell you the rest in this encounter I had with Cody, the neckbeard / nice guy. I forgot to mention at our last story that Cody was 23 and 6'3", I was 17 and 5'4", my boyfriend Mark was 17 and 6 foot. Story time. Okay, so in the previous story, Cody and I had met and we'd only been talking for roughly 3 days before my boyfriend called me during a FaceTime with Cody, which a random call from a guy was out of character. He usually checks to make sure I'm not busy and he isn't interrupting anything first. I told Cody I had to leave and Cody begins crying and telling me that my boyfriend Mark didn't deserve me and that he would break my heart and that Cody deserves to be with me and yada yada yada. Typical neckbeard mumbo jumbo, right? Well, after his sobbing fit and realizing I was not interested, we both quit talking for a few days to cool off, so we were pissed at each other. I had promised not to block him, and one day we began to message again. Things somewhat went back to normal, and we chatted like nothing had happened, but then the innuendos and the milady began. It started off as jokes such, and I laughed them off. I specifically remember complaining to him about my period that week, and how bad it hurt, and that I needed chocolate, and he asked, would milady enjoy it if I were to bring her some brownies and massage her belly? I laughed and told him no, thinking he was kidding, but his offers got weirder and weirder. There were times that he would offer to mess around with me to ease the cramps. I even remember being on a video call with him playing video games, and I raged and screamed at the enemies on the game to eat my butt. And he would always respond, alright, come over here and I will, or just tell me when and where. Well, it slowly got to the point where I had asked him to settle down, being as polite as possible, and he did for the evening. I honestly can't even remember how it came up, but he slowly began to mention his love life and how nobody had loved him and such, and he began to tell me again about how he would marry me. He mentioned how I was the first girl not to judge him, that he would want to have kids with a woman like me, and that he can see himself happy 20 or 30 years from now with me in our house, him loving on me and treating me as a woman should be. He said, and I quote word for word, I freaking love you. I'm in love with you and I don't care if that's fast as frick. I'm in love with you and I want to be you more than Mark does. Keep in mind that at this point, Cody and I had only knew each other for 2 weeks. He then began to say some nasty things about Mark and call him a fog, and Cody told me that Mark would cheat on me. It's pretty much a guarantee. I had had enough and told him to stop, and he did. I said goodnight and we stopped talking for a bit. Fast forward 3 days later and we are talking yet again, and I'm embarrassed to say I keep giving him chance after chance for an entire month. Shortly after we started talking again, I had gotten news that my best guy friend was going to propose to his girlfriend and needed help picking out a ring she would like. I was looking up rings later that night while I was FaceTiming with Cody. I muttered under my breath about wanting one, and he jumped on the idea. I'll get you a ring, milady. Anyone you would like. What do you want it to look like? Hey, what's your address? I'll mail it to you. I brushed him off and tried to scare him away by saying, I kinda hoped it would be with Mark, who buys me a ring one day. Sorry. Things were back to the innuendos and messed up jokes, comments about wanting to eat my booty and such. After that, and he even began to mention how he wondered what it would feel like if he dumped his load inside of me. My queen, carry a little one. He called out one night, and I specifically remember his nice guy side kicking in full force. He was being creepy and the whole I want to mess around with you hints and asking if he could meet me, and I tried to scare him off again by mentioning Mark, and he got pissed at me. He told me that maybe to get a girlfriend he should just be a butthole, cause you know, girls like that stuff. They love it when guys frick them senseless and leave them pregnant and alone. Maybe I should just start doing that instead of being nice and kind. I had had enough that night, and I mentioned I was tired and promptly hung up without another word. It was mostly the messed up jokes and such for about another week or so. I couldn't seem to bring myself to block him, and I thought it would be rude of me to do so. I had tried to avoid calling him, and homecoming week was approaching, so I told him I couldn't call at all because it was my job to ensure the dance would be set up and that my class's float would be finished on time. I had not FaceTimed him for an entire 2 weeks. Well, one night I had gotten into a huge fight with my mother, who is psychologically abusive towards me. I stormed upstairs crying, and Mark was out at a friend's house celebrating a birthday party, his best friend's little sister, so I got desperate and asked Cody if he'd like to FaceTime. I was upset and needed someone to talk to. He told me he couldn't, and I apologized for bothering him. He mentioned he had an issue he kept bringing it up like he wanted to talk about, but being the kind-hearted, willing to listen to anyone's type of stuff girl I am, I asked what was wrong. He proceeded to explain he's horny and goes into detail of what he was doing and that he was thinking of me. He told me he was going to nut on the image of me on my knees in front of him. I panicked and went off on him, telling that I don't care who he thinks he is, Mark will be furious, and if Cody didn't stop this stuff, I would tell Mark. To this day, I have no doubt in my mind if I had explained that what had happened to Mark, he would have loaded into the truck with his dad and a gun, drove the entire hour and 40-minute drive to this guy's place, and shot him in his doorway. He began to yell at me about how I had led him on, and that if I was so interested in what's his freaking face, then I shouldn't have featured on his live with him over a month ago. He complained to me that he was being nice, and that he just wanted a girlfriend, and that he loved me still, and that he was so disappointed that I was just an attention-wholesome person looking to break some hearts. He told me that I needed to quit throwing it in his face that Mark and I were dating at the hip, and that he kept asking if I had kissed Mark yet, and then he told me to go have fun sucking his dong because the moment I gave Mark my V-card, he would leave me pregnant and alone. I told Cody that if this was his way of trying to make me feel bad, then it wasn't working. I was as nice as I could be, telling him that in 20 years, maybe he'll realize that this whole month was just a waste of mine and his time, and I promptly blocked him on Snapchat. He tried to message me once on the app we met on, but I never opened it, and he hadn't tried to message me since. That is my experience with a neckbeard/nice guy. I hope you enjoyed. Edit, I had forgotten to mention that I finally told Mark about it nearly a month and a half later, and boy was he pissed. He had asked if I still had his Snapchat, and I told him I didn't, but I had his phone number still, and I gave Cody's number to Mark. It was a few hours later, but I got screenshots of the conversation between Mark and Cody, and boy was Cody cowering like a dog with the tail between his legs. Mark called him multiple times and demanded Cody pick up the phone, but he wouldn't do it. Mark downloaded the Text Now app and created 7 or 8 phone numbers every time Cody blocked him another number until Mark had finally thought he got the message through that he needed to quit harassing girls. You know, props to you, Mark, for whatever you did. Like, I guess you sent enough messages for him to finally get that point through that good old thick neckbeard head of his. And really, this is actually kind of interesting, because you now finally think of the psyche for the whole nice guys and neckbeards is that they're effectively all bark and no bite. They can say a lot of stuff, but when it comes to acting on it, they're not going to be able to back themselves up. So pretty much for anybody watching this, if you are experiencing your own nice guy or neckbeard situation, just really try to push them away, and when they act on it or try to say they're going to do something, really, they're not going to be able to. I mean, yes, there is still like a 1% chance they do something really crazy, but 99% of the time, they're not going to be able to back up their own things. And, you know, just to be safe, I would honestly screenshot every single bit of it that I can. Like, seriously, they can edit the messages in the chat, but they can't take away what you've already screenshotted. Our next story comes to us from username Cyror. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, though. Nasty Neckbeard at DragonCon apparently thinks cosplay equals consent. First post on Reddit, longtime lurker. After watching YouTube videos and reading stories, I'm not gonna lie, I was kinda hoping that I'd be able to spot a neckbeard in public, and holy moly did I get my wish and more. Actual story. DragonCon 2019 was my first convention, and I went with 3 friends. For a while, I've been building up a cool cosplay since cosplayers are amazing and I've always wanted to cosplay. This year, I decided to go as Nessa from Pokemon Sword and Shield. I chose her because I'm a black girl and I could pull it off pretty well. I had just got my ticket to take a picture with the nicest, most handsome man on earth, David Tennant, and went to his room where a bunch of other stars were taking pictures and signing autographs. A friend and I were walking up to the line where you can meet Kimberly Brooks, voice of Allura from Voltron, when this obese pale guy who looked like he was in his late 30s, who all called Dragonbeard, saw me from another line. "Hey Nessa, can I take a picture with you?" "Sure, of course." It was cool since like 20 people already asked to take a picture of me that day. I even got a rose from the traveling bard cosplayer. Haha, I felt super flattered. Not bad for the first time cosplayer, I think. So, as Dragonbeard walked over to me, that's when the stink hit me full force. I thought I smelled something earlier when I walked into the room, but I assumed it was probably from so many people in one room cosplaying on a sweltering hot Georgia day. I was wrong to an extent. This dude smelled like a poopy litter box that was tossed in a garbage can that sat in the sun for a few days. I regret agreeing to the photo. Just so you know, this dude had multiple $30 autographs in his hands when he called out to me. Boy can at least afford some $1 deodorant and a bar of soap. My mommy taught me to be polite to people, and not to judge them too quickly, but darn, I just wanted to tell the guy to take a freaking shower. I remember telling myself that it would be over quickly and that it was a quick picture, and then I could leave, but no. As he was reaching into his bag to get his camera, Dragonbeard said this. "You know, Nessa was my first crush." there it is, the red flag. My friend and I were looking at each other with scared, wide eyes like, what the frick, did he just say that? At this point, Dragonbeard had his camera and held out his right arm to take a picture, but then he reached around me and pulls me into his stank butt self. His sweaty hand was on my exposed midriff and was closer to my butt than I was comfortable with. Since I'm a germaphobe and absolutely hate any nasty things touching me, I wanted to jump into a tub of disinfectant and die. He could have at least asked me before using his nasty hands to press me against his sweaty, disgusting, horrid-smelling folds. Dude's sweaty armpits was right on my exposed right shoulder and possibly leaving revolting sweat prints on me. Sorry I'm getting descriptive, it was just that it was heck. Absolutely heck for me. As I forced a smile and tried not to throw up a little in my mouth or have an episode, the guy leans in until his face is like an inch away from mine and me, please. I washed my face 6 times that night since I felt so dirty afterwards, and then the point where I start getting really scared is when Dragonbeard asked, "Can I give you a little peck on the cheek, Nessie?" as he squeezed my midriff and pulled me a tiny bit closer. Yuck. What the frick? Let me just say I'm 16, and at that point I told him this. Dragonbeard raised his eyebrows, shrugs, and said, "So, it's just a little kiss from a cutie." Boy, what the frick? Red flags everywhere! My friend just stood there terrified, looking like she was about to cry or scream. My first thought, other than, oh my god, he's a pedophile, was to get the heck away from him and scream for some kind of security. I couldn't though, because this guy is bigger than me. Who knows what he could do to me before someone could stop him. I was scared out of my mind, so I just stood there paralyzed in fear and shock before I said, no thanks. Dragonbeard kind of looked at me for a hot moment like he was gonna go for it anyway. Dear God, I calmed down a little after he said, "Oh, okay then." He snapped 3 pictures, I think, and then released me from his nasty, sweaty, stinky, dirty self. I was pretty sure the smell was probably going to stick with me for the rest of the day, especially while taking a picture with David Tennant, my idol. Darn it! Then Dragonbeard just walked away, like it was normal to terrorize someone he knows is underage. I stood there and tried not to cry and make a scene in the midst of all the congoers and voice actors. I went home that night happy that I got to take a picture with the man I adore, but it was dampened by the fact that this neckbeard probably made me smell like a bad litter box next to him. I stayed in the shower for an hour, but no amount of showering could erase the stink from my memory. At least I finally had a story of my own to tell. Too long didn't read. Creepy pedophilic neckbeard pulls me close for a picture and asked to kiss me at DragonCon, left me probably smelling bad when I met David Tennant. See, that's the only bad thing I really dislike about some conventions. People don't understand that just because you're in character does not mean you are that character actually, and then they come with all of their ideals and morals. Like, imagine you don't go up to every single Deadpool and then automatically treat them like they're the fourth wall breaking merc with a mouth, right? In the end, I'm glad that you were able to still have fun by getting that photo and autograph with David Tennant. I honestly would like to meet the guy myself, because again, he was the 10th Doctor. While he wasn't my favorite Doctor, he's still in my top 3. I'm glad that you didn't let that neckbeard experience ruin the whole thing for you, that you saw the silver lining in everything and still had fun at that convention itself. Alrighty, that's gonna have to be it for the video. If you'd like what you had seen, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you have not already. Turn on those notifications and check out the Discord also. Lastly, while I was editing this video, I remembered that I still need to get my MagFest ticket, so I did wind up getting that, so I'll be sure to see you guys in January at the Gaylord in the National Harbor, Maryland. And also, I'll be posting on Twitter, and I'll have a link to my Twitter in the description box for you guys to check out. And be sure to do that. Be sure to follow me on there. I'll be posting while I'm at the event and just kind of everyday kind of things. It's not really going to be Reddit specific, but it'll be more like a daily life social media. Thank you for watching, and I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.